Hotel World, this your brother Matthew Daniels, aka Ampu, aka The Chosen Few, aka The Real Bookworm. I'm not a bookworm, I'm the real bookworm. Make sure you get it right. And as always, world, may your name live on forever and may your memory never die. Hotel. Today, I'm going to be reading a text for y'all, an ancient Egyptian text known as the Immortality of Writers. Now, this text, it holds a real special place in my heart, right? Because as you all know, I'm an author and I'm the real bookworm. I love to read. And this ancient Egyptian text was written by someone who is of a kindred spirit as myself. Now, I personally believe in reincarnation. I believe in reincarnation is real. I believe that some people that are alive on the planet right now have been alive on the planet before. Now, that's not something that I can scientifically verify. That's why I call it a belief. But no one can change my mind about that. I also personally believe that I've been here before. And I like to fancifully think about the idea that maybe I was the individual that wrote this. Now, I'm not saying I was the individual that wrote this. I'm saying in my creativity and in my imagination, I view whoever wrote this as a kindred spirit as myself, because the things that he is saying is the things that I actually believe right now, right? Anybody that's a writer, and anybody that just loves reading and loves the written word, we are all intricately connected. Maybe not biologically, right? That we're in the same family. And we may not have been born in the exact same time period, because this guy was born thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. But the fact that we love the written word and we love to write makes us connected, right? We are connected in our love for writing. So the book that I'm going to be going to is Ancient Egyptian Literature, Volume 2, The New Kingdom by Miriam Litcham, right? And there's a text in here known as the Immortality of Writers. And I'm going to read that to you guys just so you guys can be aware of one of my most favorite ancient Egyptian texts. Now, this text was written somewhere between the 19th and 20th dynasties of ancient Egypt. So we're talking about somewhere between 1292 BCE and 1077 BCE. So we're talking about quite possibly 3,200 years ago. 3,200 years ago, okay? The Immortality of Writers. And it says, if you do this, you are versed in writings, as to those learned scribes of the time that came after the gods, they who foretold the future. Their names have become everlasting, while they departed, having finished their lives, and all their kin are forgotten. So what he's talking about is how he says, of those learned scribes of the time that came after the gods. Now, in ancient Egyptian history, as they wrote about a time when what we call gods, but what the ancient Egyptians called the Netters or the Neteru. It was a time when the Neteru actually lived on planet Earth side by side with humans. And then there came a time when the Neteru no longer lived on planet Earth with humans. Human beings themselves became the descendants of the Neteru. And if they lived a certain type of life, they could elevate to the status of a Neter themselves. And they had the spirit or the essence of the Neteru living inside of them. Certain actual human beings. So he's talking about and he's paying homage to those first original scribes who came after the time when the Neteru lived on planet Earth, and they began to document history and document prehistory of the times when the Neteru lived on planet Earth. He says, they did not make for themselves tombs of copper with stelae of metal from heaven. They knew not how to leave heirs, children of theirs to pronounce their names. They made heirs for themselves of books, of instructions they had composed. So he's saying is, if anybody knows anything about ancient Egypt, there is so many massive monuments and stelae. I mean, things that are 75 feet tall. You know, you got the pyramids that are hundreds of feet tall, hundreds of feet in diameter, right? Massive, massive structures. And a lot of these structures are inscribed all around. You go to Egypt and you will see the metal netter, the hieroglyphics. You'll see the metal netter written everywhere. And so what he's saying is these scribes, they did not ensure their legacy by having a whole lot of children that could carry on their bloodline. And they did not ensure that their legacy and that their name would be remembered by being written about on the walls, right? He said that they ensured their legacy and that they ensured that their names would be remembered forever in their thoughts, right? The things that made them up, how they felt about life, what they believed, what they thought. They ensured that these things would live on forever in their books. And I can relate to that because I often think about, even after I die, you know, suicide note, my novel will still be here, right? Even after I die, Thicker Than Water will still be here. After I die, my next novel that's coming out in August, Big Game Hunting, Volume 1, it'll still be here. Now, I also have children as well, but I'm hoping to gain some type of immortality in the fact that the works that I create, the written words that I create, my books, my works will live on forever. So this is yet another way that I symbolically in my mind can connect myself to this writer. Okay. He goes on to say, they gave themselves the scroll as lector priest, the writing board as loving son. Instructions are their tunes. The reed pen is their child. The stone surface, their wife. So he's saying that the writing board is the scribe's son. The instructions, their views on how life is supposed to be lived, their views on morality, their views on right and wrong, their views on what you should do in certain situations, their ideas of wisdom, that is their tomb. Right? That is their tomb. Not a physical tomb where you can go to, but their innermost thoughts put down on paper. The reed pen is their child. The pen is their child. The stone surface, their wife. The stone surface, their wife. So he's equating all of the things with writing that an individual will associate with their actual bloodline. My bloodline will live on forever, and thus my name will live on forever. That is the general concept and the idea of eternal life. You live eternally through your descendants and through the nation in which you belong, right? But the scribe is set apart. The scribe attains immortality not just in his children, right? Not just in his progeny, not just in the extension of his nation or the everlastingness of his nation, of his bloodline, of his peoples, but also in his works. That's profound to me. People, great and small, are given them as children. For the scribe, he is their leader. And so what he's saying is, in ancient Egypt, to be a scribe was like one of the most important jobs that one could have. If you were a scribe, if you could read and write, you were held high in Egyptian society. And so likewise, individuals, both great and small, rich and poor, right? They would want their children to go into the scribehood. They would want them to learn how to read and write, because if you were a scribe, you were held up high. So that's why he says people great and small are giving them as children. For the scribe, he is their leader. Their portals and mansions have crumbled. Their servants are gone. Their tombstones are covered with soil. Their graves are forgotten. Their name is pronounced over their books, which they made while they had being. Good is the memory of their makers. It is forever in all time. So wherein your physical tomb and your physical body may eventually crumble and decay and cease to be, if your work is constructed in such a way that it has value to generations and generations and generations after you, then you will live on in your works. And whenever someone reads your work and your name associated with the work, you will in essence live forever, because that thing which makes you up, your thoughts, your feelings, your ideas, and your wisdom is living on. So in essence, you are living on if you can but put that into a book in such a way to where those writings are accepted by future generations, and it lives on in generation after generation after generation. And people take your concepts of wisdom, right and wrong, your concepts of life, law, love, and they embody them within themselves. You yourself will live on with your works. Be a scribe. Take it to heart, that your name become as theirs. And I feel like there's like a personal charge to someone like me, as in they're saying, be a scribe, be a scribe. And thankfully I am at this point. Better is a book than a graven stele, than a solid tomb enclosure. They act as chapels and tombs in the heart of him who speaks their name. Surely useful in the graveyard is a name in people's mouth. Man decays, his corpse is dust, all his kin have perished, but a book makes him remembered through the mouth of its reciter. Better is a book than a well-built house, than tomb chapels in the west. Better than a solid mansion, than a stele in the temple. Is there one like Hardidef? Is there another like Imhotep? None of our kin is like Nefertiti or Keti, the foremost among them. I give you the name of Ptah Jahuti, of Kaheraper Sanel. Is there another like Ptah Hotep, or the equal of Khares? Those sages who foretold the future, what came from their mouth occurred. It is found as their pronouncement. It is written in their books. And so what he does there, he goes to name great scribes and prophets that lived before his time. And he's saying that you can live forever in your works. And so he gives examples of individuals who died thousands of years before his time, but are still just as relevant as they were in the day that they were alive in their works. He, no doubt, the writer of this, he or she, the writer of this, no doubt had the works of those individuals that he just named, right? And so he's saying that the same way those individuals live forever, we can live forever if we but do what they do. And it's very telling that he says that they foretold the future. What they said came to pass. So there is obvious a concept of prophecy in ancient Egypt, where you had prophets, Egyptian prophets, who told the future, and their prophecies actually came true. And these individuals, when their prophecies came true, the Egyptians knew that they had some divine connection to the Neteru, and they in turn were deified as the Neteru after their death. Not deified in the sense that they were considered to be the ultimate God, but they were respected for their connection and the life that they lived, and the fact that they were able to foretell the future. They were held to in a higher standard. It's like the apotheosis. The word apotheosis is the deification of a regular human. They held them up high. And that name that he named Imhotep was actually the individual who created and designed the first step pyramid in the 3rd dynasty for Pharaoh Djoser. Okay, now it was actually a cult of Imhotep in subsequent years after his death, and they had temples and shrines and everything like that to Imhotep. Okay, so he goes on to say, the children of others are given to them to be heirs as their own children. They hid their magic from the masses. It is read in their instructions. So that's key. He says they hid their magic from the masses. It is read in their instructions. Now, a lot of people like to talk about the magic of the Egyptians or Egyptian magicians and things like that, and spells, right? And amulets. People talk about these types of things. But are they talking about David Copperfield magic? No. Are they talking about Houdini magic? No. Now, some of them are talking about actual, factual, real deal magic, bringing dead people back to life, bringing dead animals back to life, taking an inanimate object and giving it life, making it into an actual animate creature or being, right? Transfiguration, animals transfiguring into birds. They do talk about that. But he says that their magic is hidden from the masses and it is written in their instructions. Now, the instructions are like the wisdom teachings on how to live life. And so another level of what he's saying is, once you understand the world around you and you understand the society in which you live, if you understand it to a sufficient enough degree, you can manipulate the things around you and you can foresee the future because you understand human behavior. You understand the patterns of nature. You understand the histories of nations. So you can tell by what is going on in your life and what was going on a few years before you were born. And you can, if you are adept at it, you can deduce what is going to happen down the road. So he says that their magic was hidden from the masses, but it can be found within their instructions. If you but live how they are telling you to live, right, you can create the life for you that you want. It's like if you figure out the matrix, right? But you have to learn from someone else who has already figured it out. They teach you how the matrix is ran. They teach you the realities of life. And they teach you the mysteries of life. And by understanding the mysteries and the reality of life in the natural world and human nature and psychology, you can thereby control your circumstances and acquire and attain anything that you want in this life. That was another beautiful part of being a scribe, because in order to be a scribe, you had to know how to read. If you could read the wisdom of the ancients. And if you could read the wisdom of the ancients, you would understand their instructions. Thereby, you would understand their magic. You would understand how they were able to accomplish the feats that they accomplished. If you notice in the Bible, in the mythological story of Moses going to Pharaoh, right? When Moses and Aaron were standing in the court of Pharaoh, it was like a contest between Moses, Aaron, and the magicians of Pharaoh. One of the things that Moses did, he threw his staff down and his staff became a snake. And the Egyptian magicians threw their staffs down and their staffs became snakes as well. So you would have to ask yourself, how did the Egyptians accomplish this feat? Right? Their magic is hidden from the masses, but it can be found within their instructions. To some people, science is magic because they don't understand it. They see a plane flying by. We are so accustomed to it in today's age that if we see a plane, we understand that it's a scientific mechanism that does it. But if you was to take a plane and you was to go back 1,000 years and you were to show someone a plane, they would think that was magic, that the thing was able to fly. And so when you go back into the ancient world, into the ancient Egyptians, when you had these scientists and you had these doctors, and you have a doctor in this ancient world of Egypt that could take someone who is suffering eye problems, that was about to go blind, right? Not in a derogatory way, but an ignorant person, an unlearned person who was having this eye problem. Then you had a learned scribe who could read the medical texts of the past, and he was a proficient doctor, and he was able to heal them, right? And now they were able to see normally or naturally, if they have some illness that they think they're about to die, but this doctor can read these medical papyri and these medical scrolls, and he can heal them, then that would appear to the commoner as magic. And so what he's saying is their magic is hidden from the masses, but it can be found in their instructions. And you can only read the medical text. It'll take away the mysterious aspect of how they're doing what they are doing, and you can replicate the process. Science to the unlearned mind seems to be magic. If someone is doing it, there is a scientific explanation for how they are doing it. You just may not understand what that scientific process is. They may not understand it neither. Someone may have just told them do A, B, C, and D, but they don't comprehend why that works. But they see that it works, and it may be interpreted as magic when actually it is understanding the natural world and how to manipulate the physical world. He says, death made their names forgotten, but books made them remembered. Death made their names forgotten, but books made them remembered. Now, like I said in the beginning of this, I view myself as a scribe. I view myself as a spirit, or the spirit inside of my body has been here for countless generations. I feel like I've gone through this life several times, but that is like a theological concept. That is a belief-based idea, and I fully understand that it is pointless to debate belief with somebody, and it's pointless to try to explain belief scientifically. But what I'm saying is, when I read that what this person felt about being a scribe and writing, the immortality of writers, that's how I've always felt. And I felt like that before I even read that text. And when I read that text, I was like, wow, someone over 3,200 years ago was thinking the exact same way as me. So I automatically felt the connection with this individual, right? Automatically felt the connection with that individual. And anyone who writes, right? You write a book, you want people to read it, you want people to receive it, and you ultimately want it to exist long after you, especially if you write something of a historical nature or autobiographical nature. It's just who we are as a people. So the Immortality of Writers, I hope you guys enjoyed that ancient Egyptian text from either the 19th or the 20th dynasty. It paints a vivid picture that I believe in my own personal life. So before I end this, as always, I gotta do the commercial. You know, if y'all want to show me some support, go and get my novel, my fiction novel about a gang war that erupts on the streets of Texas City, Texas. And Detective Derek Rose and Officer Sierra Martin, they have to race against the clock to try to bring peace back to the streets. That's thicker than water. You can get that on Amazon in paperback form or ebook form. And I also have my novel Suicide Note. It's a another fiction novel, Suicide Note by Matthew Daniels, on Amazon. You can get it in the paperback form or ebook form. This is generally about a young man. He's a 15-year-old young man out of Dickinson, Texas. He doesn't like being in the streets, but he comes from a single-parent home. His mother is on drugs, and the only way he sees to make money and to make it out of the streets, he thinks he has to hustle and sell drugs. So he's trying to sell enough drugs and rob enough people to make enough money that he can eventually invest and become a legitimate businessman and make it out of the hood. But things don't always go right when that's your plan to come out, because if you're selling drugs and if you end up robbing people and if you're in the wrong hood at the wrong time, then you're going to make enemies. He makes those enemies. And then this older white woman named Layla, she gets in close to him. She eventually becomes his girlfriend. And so it's them two against the enemies that they've made in the streets. And they're just trying to stay alive long enough to make enough money to get out the hood. So you want to read his Suicide Note. This is a very, very good book. I get a lot of good feedback off of that. So go and get that Suicide Note. Go and get that Thicker Than Water so your boy can live forever, right? New book coming in August. Big Game Hunting, Volume 1. This is a non-fiction novel. It's all fact, no fiction, and it is a historical document, okay? And I am documenting police corruption and constitutional violations right here in Texas City for a particular point of time. The area of focus that I have is from 2010 to 2016. I do talk about years preceding that and shortly after that, but my focus is 2010 and 2016 for Volume 1. I will make this a multi-volume work because I have a lot of information and I couldn't put it all into one volume. So there are some things that have happened recently that you won't actually find in this book. You're going to have to wait for Volume 2 to find that. So be on the lookout for Big Game Hunting Volume 1. Go out there and get that. This is a game changer. This is a game changer. They're probably going to want to sue me when this book comes out. But I have everything lined up. I have all my ducks lined up, all of my ducks in a row. I have all of this documentation to back up everything I can, so nobody can say it's slander. Nobody can say I'm lying. Nobody can say it's character defamation, defamation of character. None of that will apply because I can prove every claim that I'm making. They will just have to accept the fact that it's documented corruption, right? It's documented corruption. I prove it with emails. I prove it with witness testimony. I prove it with court documents. I prove it with police arrest records. Okay, I prove it with news articles. Okay, it's nowhere around it. When you get this book and you read this book, you're going to say there's no way that anybody can deny the information that the real bookworm put inside of this book, because he put all of the facts to support it. And if there was a particular claim that I could not prove emphatically and irrefutably within the book, I didn't even include it. There's a lot of stuff that I could have said that they may have told me in, on the back end that was pure speculation. So I left that out, and I focused on the things that I could irrefutably prove so that no one can deny the validity of this book. Thank you for listening. The Immortality of Writers, ancient Egyptian text that I feel and I hold close to my heart. This your brother, Matthew Daniels, a.k.a. Ampu, a.k.a. The Chosen Few, a.k.a. The Real Bookworm. I'm not a bookworm, world. I'm the real bookworm. Make sure you get it right. And as always, world, may your name live on forever, and may your memory never die. Hotel, peace to that. I'm out.